What up, guys? And welcome to episode 5 of Taking Back Mondays. You know, it's your positivity podcast with Sly Guy and Malnoxx. But before we get into anything, we got to let you know where you can hang out with us, where you can interact with us, and where you can chat with us. So, Malnoxx, shout it out. Where can the people find you?
Guys, you can find me everywhere on the internet. You might be able to find a person at Malnoxx, except for Twitter, where it is Malnoxx TV, because someone has the tag Malnoxx that tweets once a year. Give me the tag. Hashtag release the tag. But Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, everywhere. Malnoxx, TikTok, Malnoxx. You're on Twitch, twitch.tv/Malnoxx. YouTube, Malnoxx. Everywhere, Malnoxx. Not Twitter, Malnoxx TV. I said. It's that Sly Guy. Where might the good listeners, the good viewers, the good community of ours be able to find you on the internet?
As always, you can find me at It's That Sly Guy absolutely everywhere because I made sure to secure the tag. Unless you're trying to drop a Twitch Prime sub on me. If you're trying to drop a Twitch Prime sub on me, you need to go to twitch.tv/Malnoxx to drop it because that is where all my Prime subs go.
No,
So
no, no, no,
I'm
no.
just going to throw that out there right now.
No. Your Prime subs go to twitch.tv/It's That Sly Guy. Actually,
Not true at all.
no, it is true.
All subs should at this time go to Malnoxx. I'm just saying. But before we keep going into that, because we can run that into the ground. What are we talking about today, Mal?
So, guys, we've been working through our 5 pillars of emotional intelligence. Right? We've talked about motivation. We've talked about self-control and self-regulation. We've talked about self-awareness. Okay? We came at you yesterday. We talked about, I'm sorry, last week. Not yesterday. We came at you last week talking about empathy.
I missed yesterday, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, oops. Talking about empathy. And coming at you guys today, we have our 5th and our final pillar. We're going to be talking about social skills today. The importance of social skills. We'll talk a little bit about how they tie in with the other 4. But then we're going to come back at you guys next week. And we're going to talk about all 5 of those and how they are so interconnected and why they are truly, 5 pillars that are holding up the whole of emotional intelligence. But yeah, we're going to be talking about social skills today. Now, Sly, what when you hear social skills, what do you think?
So I'm gonna tell you what it's not
All right.
first, because I think social skills a lot of times gets thrown into a box,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the ability to communicate, right? It's the ability to talk to people
Mm-hmm.
well.
Yes.
That is not that is a piece potentially of social skills, but that is not social skills.
Mm-hmm.
Um, social skills are far more about the how, the empathy behind
Mm-hmm.
something than it is the actual act of doing it. Just being able to talk well doesn't mean you're really good at social skills. Um,
Very
social
true.
skills social skills have to do with conflict resolution, have to do with being able to praise people well, being able to give constructive criticism well. It's the entire interaction, just not just verbal, not just public speaking, not, um, some of us are decent at public speaking. Some of us are, decent at things like that. That doesn't uh, necessarily mean we've mastered the art of social skills. That means we've mastered, potentially a aspect, which is where I think a lot of people take social skills. I think a lot of people take it to like, oh yeah, like people listen to you, you talk really well.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think that almost well, I wouldn't say more important, but just as important as the being able to effectively communicate and convey, criticism and praise, is the ability to actively listen. I think active listening is a big social skill that a lot of people overlook. I
Mhm.
think it's one that a lot of people don't have, to be honest, or that people struggle with. Maybe not don't have, but they don't, because it's something that people don't always think about as a social skill. I feel like it's something that people don't always work on as much. Um, and so I think active listening is a big one. But then also just like relationship management, being able to manage your personal relationships, professional relationships. Social skills are so important for people who are in a management position. Being able to effectively manage the people under you to bring out the best in them. We talked a little bit about that in uh, one of the previous episodes, but in the professional world, that's huge to be able to have to either be a manager or have a manager that has that ability to effectively communicate, to listen, to really empathize with you, and to make you feel valued, and they have the ability to pull out the effort that a lesser manager might not. And I'm sure everyone's had great bosses that they remember. Everyone's had not so great. So everyone's had terrible bosses that they remember. Hopefully you haven't. It'd be awesome if you haven't had terrible bosses. But when you think back to what makes a great boss great or what makes a poor boss poor, a lot of times it comes down to the way that they interacted with you.
Yeah. Uh, but with that, I think um, I think some big things, and I mean we could do entire episodes on some of these things,
Mm-hmm.
but like big things to look at when you're looking at social skills are conflict resolution, in my opinion,
Yep.
and understanding love languages. If you've ever heard the term or phrase love languages,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's the concept that everybody loves different. They both receive and give love differently.
Yeah.
Um, so words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, physical touch, and what is it? Receiving gifts,
Yeah. Gift giving.
gift giving.
Yeah.
Like everybody's gonna fall on that spectrum somewhere differently,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be able to interact with people where they feel like they can receive it.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
Uh, and then conflict resolution, like there's the 5 styles of conflict resolution as well. Um, and you got to understand like avoiding, accommodating, compromising, competing, and collaborating, right?
Yeah.
The 5 styles of conflict resolution. You've got to understand like what is a conflict small enough to avoid, what can we accommodate. You got to fall into those places,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a huge part of social skills. In my opinion, just that right there, those two things sets you far out and beyond most people on just your interactions with people. If you have, uh, you know, if you focus on those and have a concept of those in your mind, you're already doing more than probably 60-70% of people out there.
Yeah. And a lot of that, I feel like comes back to what we talked about previously, in that a lot of the way that you are going to approach those different situations and the way that you come into these different interactions with people
Mhm.
requires you to be empathetic and self-aware. Because it takes empathy, it takes self-awareness to know how you're going to come at a situation, to know what style of conflict resolution you need to employ in this given scenario. Um, so again, we've said it before, we've said it a million times, that it's you can't talk about one without talking about the others, because they are all you know connected to the other. But in the same vein as conflict resolution, I think is how to constructively confront someone. You confront someone with an issue. They have constructive you know um, criticism to an extent, but also there's an issue that you have with them. Whether
Yeah.
that be something that they did, something that they said, um, and there's ways that are very effective to go and to talk about that with them without them feeling, attacked or targeted, or without, them getting on the defensive. And then there's ways that, you go in, you say something, and immediately the person's going to get defensive, and it's not going to be a productive conversation anymore because they're going to feel like you're, you know, the aggressor, and they have to go on the defense. So being able to have those conversations effectively with people, and that applies to all aspects of your life. It applies to personal life, professional life.
Yeah.
Um, every relationship you have, it's important that you know how to address problems within that relationship in a effective and constructive manner.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think, part of that goes back to I think it was the first week we talked about the idea of, criticism requires no response,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, part of some of this comes back to, like, if you understand these things, you also have to understand that not everybody does, and you have to be able to be, for lack of a better term or phrasing, you have to learn to be good on the other side, right? You have to be you have to take criticism well. You have to, um, you have to understand that if you understand love languages, not everybody does. And if
Yes.
somebody's trying to show you love, you've kind of got to step into that place and say, like, I understand what this is, where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, like, that's that kind of that piece of everything goes together to create a complete human being.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, not everybody's going to be able to do it perfectly every time, and you've got to be able to step in and, have a little patience with somebody who, comes at you with constructive criticism, but the tone of voice catches you off and you're ready to go defensive or attack.
Yeah.
You have to be able to
To
step back and be
understand.
like, okay,
Yeah. Understand kind of where the intention is coming from, and understand, like, all right, they said this poorly, but like what they're trying to say is this. I can tell that they're not trying
yeah,
to be offensive. I can tell they're trying to help. And then also those kind of situations can be things that are good, like teachable moments where
yeah,
you can say, like, you can have that conversation, and you can make it constructive by saying, like, I understand, like, where you're coming from and what you're saying. I appreciate the feedback, blah 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 blah. In the future, maybe if you approach it this way. But see, that's when you also have to have that self-awareness to know that, like,
yeah.
how are you going to respond to that? So, like you said, how you respond to criticism is really important, because there's, you can accept it, you can get defensive, but then there's also, like, you can accept it, but then carefully, you know, return your own criticism, or not even your own, just your own,
Yeah,
I guess your own criticism in the ways that uh they
you're
approached it.
criticizing the way they criticized.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Which is legitimate, because sometimes people come off, really harshly and really bluntly, and they don't mean to, but that's just the way that they communicate. And being able to, communicate with them and say, like, I understand what you mean. I know that you didn't mean it in this way, but this is the way that it came across. And being able to have that conversation, I think, is important and healthy.
to give you an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is kind of a serious moment, but my mom a few years back had double pneumonia. Right,
Ooh.
she's hospitalized
Mm-hmm.
in the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and she can't breathe. Obviously, pneumonia is a heavy
Yep.
thing in your lungs.
Yep.
She can't breathe, so she starts to have a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
While she's having a panic attack, they're trying to calm her down, and there is a nurse in there, a male nurse, that keeps telling her, "Lady, if you can't calm down, you're gonna buy a tube." Which by that he meant they're gonna have to put a breathing tube down her throat.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
That
not.
is that is not in any way, shape, or form helpful for someone who's having a panic attack and can't breathe.
Yeah.
And my mom brought it up to him a couple days later. He was in there working, and he's like, "Well, I'm just very blunt." And she was like, "Well, that's fine, but also you're gonna get into a lot of trouble being that way in the profession you're in right now.
Yeah.
So, like, there is that concept of, like, you can take time. So, like, with that, you can take time, right? You don't have to come back immediately.
Mhm.
Obviously, my mom couldn't say anything immediately because of situation,
Yeah.
but, like, even if, like, it's me and you and not a severity of that level,
Mhm.
but, you say something, I don't have to come at you immediately. I can walk away, sit on it for a minute, and come back to you and be like, "Okay, so this is how I felt like you came at me with that criticism,
Yep.
and this is how I think it could have been done better."
Yeah, 100%. And I actually just had a conversation with someone this past weekend about that exact thing, about something that I had said, um, like a week ago from when we talked,
Mhm.
and they were like, "Hey, like, I just want to let you know, it's kind of been like something that I've been thinking about. It's been bugging me. Like, you said this, or like the past couple of times this has happened, you responded in this way." And like they're like, I don't think that you mean it to come across the way it does,
Mhm.
but this is how it's been coming across. And I wasn't aware that that's how it had been coming across. And so we talked about it and we got to a good place. But like, yeah, and also I think it's important to not be afraid to bring those things up. If something happened a week
Yeah.
ago and you're still thinking about it, like, that's not good. It's not going to do
Yeah.
anyone any good if you ignore the way that you're feeling. And so it's healthy to go into these confrontations, um, in a constructive manner,
Yeah.
like was done, um, and to work through it. Because if you just sit on that emotion, then the next time it happens, you're just gonna blow up, and then you're gonna start hurling
Yeah.
accusations. You're gonna get frustrated, and then the other person's gonna like, oh, this
Be
came out of nowhere.
confused
Like,
and yeah.
what happened? But if you had that conversation, then like, oh, I understand where you're coming from. Let's work on this so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Yeah, a stewing pot never just stops stewing.
Yeah.
It continues to stew until the whole pot is ruined,
Yep.
right? Um, I think I had the same conversation with the same person this weekend,
Okay.
and I agree. Like those conversations are super healthy,
Mhm.
um, because like I got to step into that conversation and be like, you know, you are valued, you are, and like speak truth into what they were feeling.
Mhm.
They felt one way, and I got to speak the opposite, the truth into those situations and say, "You're feeling this, but this is the reality. And
Mhm.
if I'm doing something that's not showing you the reality of these things,
Need to
like
change it.
I apologize. And if something like that happens again, let me know so I can change it then and there.
Yep.
Don't don't put that weight on yourself to, because that is what it is. It's putting a weight on yourself to try to like, well, he didn't mean it like that. I'm gonna just, you
Mhm.
know, and then you're right. Eventually, you boil up and you blow up.
Yep. 100%. 100%. Um, but moving on from conflict resolution, something else that I think um ties into these social skills is the ability to um communicate in a large group of people. So
Hmm.
whether that's in a professional setting where you're in a meeting, or in a personal setting, you're just in a big group of friends or something, um, being able to convey your point when there's a lot of people who might be trying to talk over you, or might be a lot of people talking at once. Being able to hold people's attention while you're talking, I think
Hmm.
is important. And there's a couple of different things that I have tried to do in my life to combat that. Um, the first thing is something that I'm still not good at, and that is anytime you're speaking, because I just caught myself doing it 2 times right now. Anytime that you're speaking and you want to say, um,
Hmm.
uh, anything like that, Instead, you take a pause and then you continue speaking. If you pause in the middle of a sentence as opposed to at the end of a sentence, it will help with people not interrupting or trying to talk over you, because they can tell that you haven't gotten that full thought out yet, and they want to hear the rest of that thought. So that's one way. And then, ums and uhs are something that we, talk about in my job, because, I coach. I'm sitting there all day, talking to a lot of people, trying to keep everyone's attention in the class and trying to, teach them. And so those things are called speech disfluencies, things that break up your speech pattern, the ums, the uhs, the so's, the, any word that you use over and over to fill in dead space in a sentence. And those things, while you might feel like they're helping because you're continuing to talk and you're talking more, people will pick up on that. And those are the places that they'll jump in and try to interject their own opinions and their thoughts. And so you're not going to get your opinion across, which is going to frustrate you and make you feel, unvalued. Whereas to them, they might just think that you don't know what you're going to say next and you're thinking. So they jump in to try to fill that conversation in. Whereas if you pause, it's more like you're collecting your thoughts versus, just trying to keep talk, and then people jump in on you.
You know why you do that and why that's such an accurate statement?
Tell me.
Because the people who in sentences a lot, me and you, we're external processors.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason you and is because when you're given a question or something to say, you immediately start talking as you process.
Yeah.
So the and really is because you haven't collected your thoughts. So the and is you've started to speak faster than you can think. So you to let your brain catch up to your mouth,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you really are collecting your thoughts. Whereas like an internal processor doesn't typically say and a lot, because they're asked a question and they go, okay. So I think, and they go off with their thought process. They give themselves that moment to really build into their thoughts.
Yes. Exactly. I 100% agree with that, and I see, you know, exactly where you're coming from. That makes a lot of sense. Um, the other thing that I think is important when we're talking about being heard in a group, or preventing people from talking over you, and something that I think is kind of hard to do because it makes you feel like a dick at first when you do it, but I think is an important tool for being able to hold the attention of someone when you're speaking. Because a lot of times, effective communication is, like we said, active listening, but it's also being able to effectively get your point across. And if someone else is talking over you consistently or interrupting you, you're not going to be able to communicate what you feel you need to communicate. And you don't want to just lay down and let someone else talk at you the whole time and you just listen. You need to do both. You need to be an active listener, and you need to have that constructive, additions to the conversation. So if someone does interrupt you, something that, again, makes you feel kind of like a dick at first, but works, is just continue and finish your thought even if they interrupted you. And now that doesn't mean that you need to raise your voice and you need to scream over them or anything. Just continue talking. Just finish your thought and then let them speak. And they're going to feel like a dick for interrupting you in that case, not the other way around. They're going to feel like a jerk because, like, oh, you weren't done talking yet. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, I'll shut up. And then you talk. And then, okay, now I'll talk. And that kind of
Yeah,
sets the pace of the conversation.
it's true. So we used to do small groups, and I don't know how much into communication you get. You like, I love communication, right? That was part of what I was doing. Um, So like the concept of like every communicator in the world has a tick of
Hmm.
some sort. Uh, a lot of times it's playing with a button on your shirt if you're wearing a shirt that has buttons, or playing with your ring on your hand. For me, I have one of the worst ones of all. I actually step forward and in and out of conversation, like on stage with a microphone, will step forward as I'm making a point and back as I'm letting off the point, and then forward as I'm making the point and then back as I'm letting it, which almost feels like it might be beneficial because like you step into the point, but also if you're standing on stage for 30 minutes giving a talk, just going like this, you know what everybody in the crowd's doing? Getting seasick. they're
Or
they're
they're
getting
mirroring you and they're sitting there listening like this.
yeah. So one of the things that I've noticed and I've tried to work with people on in those areas is the ability to come in and like, so you're making a point, right? And you'll see me do it. You see me do it in the podcast all the time. You're making a point, right, Mel?
Mhm.
You're talking. Start talking.
Yeah, so right now I'm giving an example of making a point so that Sly can demonstrate what he is trying to demonstrate that he does on the podcast when I am speaking and making a point.
So the like that lean forward into it
Hmm.
and pointing at you, it's not it's not because like I am engaged with what you're saying, but it's not because like I'm lazy and I need to lean forward. It's because you said something that gives me a thought, and I'm bad at interrupting you, right?
Hmm.
So instead of trying to interrupt you, I lean forward and I point at you. One, I don't know if Mal does it because we're on Zoom, but if you're in person, people pick up on that.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, if they're at a point where they can freeze, they'll go, "Did you have something to say?" Because they see that movement.
Hmm.
And two, it puts in the immediate like, it's like when you were little, they tie a piece of rope, piece of yarn around your finger to remind you of something when you went home.
Hmm.
You ever have that? Like,
Yeah.
oh, remember you got to get your parents' signature. It's been 4 days and you still haven't done it. Yarn around your finger. That way, when your parents get home, they're like, "What's the yarn for?"
Like, oh
Uh,
yeah.
it's the same thing with having some sort of like physical thing. Like now, I'm leaned forward and I see my hand. My brain holds on to that better because I'm like I'm into that thought, right?
Hmm.
I'm there and I've done something that physically helps me hold on to it. Where when if you're not at a part where you can freeze and be like, "Hey, can I help? Like, did you have something to say?" If you're at a part where you need to keep going, I've now got a little bit of a reminder of, "Oh yeah, boom. Like this is what I was going to say earlier on the thought that you made, you know." So it's little things like that that like super help.
Yeah. 100%. And those, like you said, that not only gives you a cue to try to remember something, it also gives your audience or the person you're communicating with a cue that that you have something that you want to add to the conversation, or you have a point that you want to make. So if they just keep talking, and you're just sitting there like this listening the whole time, but in your head you're like, there's something I really want to say. They don't have any way of knowing that unless they get to a point where they stop talking. Whereas, like you said, if you lean forward, then I'm going to think, oh, he's got something he wants to say. Let's hear it. And that, makes it a conversation and not just one person talking at someone else. Um, and that plays into, with social skills, it really is everything. It's thinking, it's seeing, it's doing. So, that ties into the seeing part. I see
Yeah.
that you're leaning forward doing this. So I'm going to think, oh, you have something that you want to say or something you want to add to the conversation. So I'm going to, the doing part is I will stop talking and, ask if you have something to add, or stop talking and let you begin talking. So seeing, thinking, doing. You see, a cue, you think about what that cue means, and then you act or you execute on that cue.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. Those three processes, I think, tie into all social skills, because social skills and social cues are either visual, they're they can be visual, they can be auditory, whatever they are, but they're you see something happening or you hear something happening, you think about what that was, you process it, and then you act on it. So I think I like that example of leaning forward.
Yeah.
I think it's a good example for that.
I think another thing in the group discussions part of things, and I will 100% be the asshole that does this. All right, I'm just letting you know that when somebody is talking, if they are interrupted, I am 100% the asshole that will go, hey, let her finish her thought, and
Oh
then
yeah.
you can talk, and then because social skills is about more than just my interaction with the person talking. It's about the emotional level. This is the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody's talking and they get interrupted by somebody who's going to overpower them in the conversation, they immediately recluse into this, oh, my opinion really wasn't that important anyway.
Yep.
So I will 100%, and like, it is a good thing to be the person that goes, hold on, let them finish their thought process, let them finish their statement,
Oh yeah.
and then because like emotional intelligence is caring about the emotional well-being of the people around you as well as just your emotional well-being. So
Yeah.
you've got to be able to pick up on stuff like that.
For sure. For sure. That's really important. I mean, that's because not everyone has the same level of social skill, obviously. Not everyone has the same level of self-awareness. Not everyone has the same level of self-control, any of these pillars. So if you have, better social skills than someone else, and they're, contributing to a conversation, and then they're, like you said, getting overpowered or something, it's important that you know, can step in and you can, help them out and help kind of balance the conversation out, and that's, I think, also why sometimes it helps people when they have an argument and the two people don't have good social skills to have a mediator in their argument, because it stops, the talking over each other, the interrupting, that it's that person to be there and say, hold on, let them finish their thought. Okay, now you can respond. Because if people don't have social skills in the first place, then there's no way that their confrontations are going to be constructive. They're going to be detrimental. And so having that person there that has the social skills to mediate that conversation is really beneficial to people until they can develop the social skills. Some people just don't want to develop the social skills. Some people don't see a need for it, which is sad, because these are extremely important things to be a successful person. Period.
In anything in life ever.
Yeah. Literally ever. These 5 things we're talking about, you need to have. Like, if you are going to be a successful functioning human. I'm not saying that you have to be amazing at all of them, but you have to have a basic understanding of each of them, and at least be willing to try. That's all we're asking for. Just try.
Yeah. Do you want to be a better classmate in kindergarten? Understand emotional intelligence. Do you want to be a better CEO of Microsoft? Understand emotional intelligence. It goes into literally anything you could ever do.
Mm-hmm.
Anything.
Yep. Exactly. And something else that I think is interesting, and that we're talking about social skills, it's something that someone might think of right away. It's just like meeting new people, making friends. You know what's really hard? Making friends as an adult. Sometimes when you're a kid, you walk up to someone, hey, do you want to go play on the playground with me? Cool, we're friends now. Done. Hey, you want to go play kickball outside? Cool, we're friends now. That's it. It's easy. But when you're an adult, you can't just walk up to some random person and be like, hey, do you want to go, play soccer with me? You want to go play basketball with me? They're going to be like, who are you? No. Like, it's a different skill set to make friends as an adult than it is to make friends as a kid. And you can use some of the same tactics. Like, maybe I join a recreational basketball league. Sure, then I can ask people to go play basketball with me because it makes sense. And I can try to, build that relationship by getting to know the people. And then, but just even when we're talking about building a relationship or building, a friendship in business or in the workplace, like a huge part of my job is building rapport with the parents and the families that come in. And you have to have social skills to be able to do that. I have to be able to talk to them. I have to be able to, find something that I can relate to them on, some level that I can relate to them on. And then not only that, but actively listen to the responses they have and remember the things that they said to, recall later, and to follow up with that to build that relationship. Because, with kids, that one interaction, could be enough. But for adults, yeah, they can be more guarded. So, it takes you showing them or showing people in general, that you genuinely care about them, that you're interested in what they have to say, that you're actively listening, that you're, communicating with them in a way that, they are comfortable with. But yeah, like following up, remembering little things, someone tells me that they're going to go on vacation and I don't see them for a week. When they come back, I'm going to say, oh, hey, how was your vacation? You guys went to Wisconsin? I don't know, wherever. Like, did you guys have a good time?
Was to Wisconsin on vacation.
A lot of people in Chicago.
Gross. Yeah, and so Keyless in chat, people are too guarded. You're not wrong, but there's still an approach that works.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've talked about my work in the past countless times. I don't need to rehash everything. But one of the things that we did every year was on spring break, we would go to Panama City Beach, Florida. Spring break
Mm-hmm.
with a bunch of college students. And the goal would be to have deep, meaningful conversations with people on Panama City Beach. You know how many people on Panama City Beach, Florida during spring break are drunk?
Like
And
99%.
All of them. But here's how it works. Who remembers middle school, elementary math? What's the easiest way to reduce a fraction?
Lowest common denominator. You gotta find something to relate to them on.
What's the easiest way to get into a conversation with somebody? I would walk through the beach and there'd be two guys throwing a football, and I'd walk up and be like, dude, can I throw the football with y'all? We ain't got a football. And I want to throw the football. I mean, every time, because I'm starting on something easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can throw the football. Sure, get in here. Start throwing the football, and then build the conversation from there.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with anything in life. Find the lowest common denominator, and then start from there and build a foundation that works up.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And that's really hard for some people. Some people don't understand how to do that, and they try to go too much too soon, or they don't know where to start, so they just don't.
Yeah.
They get intimidated by it. But it's, yeah, there's a lot that goes into that when we're talking about trying to approach people and build new relationships and things, What if they think you're a weirdo? What if, fear of rejection goes into that, and a lot of that. But like you said, if you Just find something easy. Make it easy. Find something that you have in common. Anything. It could be like something they have on their shirt. Maybe they have like a freaking superhero shirt on. You're like, dude, I love Iron Man. I don't know. Like, did you see that? Did you see the new Marvel movie? And then you build the conversation from there, exactly like you said.
Yep. So, for example, a large portion of the people in chat right now come from a big ass raid that Tyson sent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Large portion of the people in my chat right now come from that Tyson raid. You know how me and Tyson know each other?
No, I don't.
Fun fact. I met Tyson through somebody else when I was on Mixer for less than a year, less than half of a year. I went to PAX South, didn't have even had 1,800 followers at the time, averaged like 3 viewers a stream, and I saw a man across the floor wearing a big ass captain's hat with a beard and the longest hair you've ever seen. And I walked up to him, even though he had 100 viewers every time he streamed, and he was, ridiculous size on Mixer at the time. And that was like at the peak of him starting his takeoff into like the D&D every day and stuff. And I literally walked up to him and was like, hey, like, you're Captain Robert. He's like, I am. I was like, dude, I love your D&D. I'm a nobody. How do you get your screen so crisp? Like, you split out your sources for your windows inside of your D&D streams, and each camera source is so crisp and clean. How do you do that? And like, he walked me through what he did, and then we talked about D&D for 4 hours on the floor at PAX South. 4 hours.
Yep.
That was it. From there, I met Awkward Tyson, I met Radio Mang, met Nighthawk, I met everybody that I play with today outside of Malnoxx through that one conversation where I was just like, dude, your cameras are so clean for what you're doing. How do you get that to work like that? And then it took off.
Yep. I don't even remember how we met.
I do.
Well, you're a better friend than I am.
I
I
know.
assume it was through Destiny.
No, it was not. We did not play Destiny together for the first like 2 months that we knew each other.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know how I know?
How do you know?
You know who I played with? You know who was in the party with us the first time we ever played a game together?
Was it 1313X?
No, we met her. I met her after you.
I know you did. Wait, no, you mean like the game, not Destiny.
No, who the first time me and you ever played a game together? You know who was in the party with us? No, it was not Nighthawk. But Nighthawk MX is if you're trying to figure out who I'm talking about, it's Nighthawk MX.
Hold on. Don't tell me. Do we still play games with them often?
Nope.
Have we played games with them in the last 2 months?
Nope.
Do they still stream?
Yes.
Do they stream on a different platform than we're on?
No. It was not Deputy.
That's what I was thinking.
The first time I talked to him was in Dep's chat.
I thought it was Dep. That's what I was gonna say, on a different platform than we are.
I was a mod for Dep.
Yeah, I know you were.
And that's the first time I talked to you, but it was very very passing. We actually hadn't really had a conversation.
I could have sworn it was either Dep or it was Rican or it was
13 Lackwolf, which is what we called him at the time.
Oh yeah. 13 Lackwolf.
because he
Yeah.
wanted to be fancy and do Black
Black
Wolf
Wolf
with a
with a
1-3.
13. Yeah.
Yeah, Wolf OSHA.
Ah, it was Wolf.
And that's like we played Fortnite with him, and then it turned into like the three of us playing Fortnite that one time to
Hmm.
like me and you streaming every day for the rest of our lives together.
Yeah, basically, we played together once, and then we're just like, cool. So like every day, forever from now on. Cool. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay. Sounds good.
yeah. It was literally it turned into literally like, what you playing tonight? Tara, I don't have it. It's free. Cool. I'm downloading it now. Let's play tonight. Got it.
Done. Yeah.
Yeah. 13 lakh. See, this is part of like the strengths and stuff though.
Hmm.
Like with the includer strength,
Hmm.
part of that is like you remember important details that most people would forget.
Yeah.
Like part of that is, that inclusive nature. You remember things that are small that most people forget.
100%. Wow. I think this is a good
Like
time. Oh, okay.
first time I met Rican, I was in his living room. I know, awkward. We did a
The first
we
time you met him, you were in his house.
true story. We were doing a podcast called the Realest Guys Podcast.
Hmm.
Him and a friend of mine, Too Good Crocker, started the podcast together, and we're like, we need a third guy. And they
Mm.
played it up for a couple weeks on the podcast, like the NWO did in WCW back in the day. Like, we're bringing in the third guy, and I came in as the third guy. Had never met Rican before. Had only ever heard him on the podcast. Um, and like me and him immediately clicked, and it was magic.
It's awesome.
Best podcast to ever be made about wrestling, guys.
Realist Guys podcast. Love it.
Yep.
But I think this is a good time. Closing remarks about social skills. Anything else that you think is important to add to the conversation?
Uh, I mean, especially since we hinged so much on group conversations and stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, always, always be looking for the quietest and most left out of the conversation, because typically they have something deep to say, and they're just gonna get over talked if they start to without a little bit of prompting. Uh, and as always, guys, remember that we love you. Don't forget to love each other and be characters that make an impact on the world you're living in, because
The sun will rise, and we will try again.